Good morning. Muy buenos días. I hope you are well, staying positive and focused on what you can control. My name is Patricia Mota. I am President and CEO of HACE, the Hispanic Alliance for Career Enhancement. Welcome to Cafecito con HACE. If this is your first time, welcome. If this is your second, third, fourth, or many times by now, welcome back. For those that don't know, HACE is a national nonprofit organization whose mission since 1982 is to positively impact workplaces by cultivating the pipeline of Latino talent, providing our community the insight, access, and support to be successful in their careers. A big thank you to many of our partners, our sponsors, our members, our alumni that joined us for our National Leadership Summit and Sembrando el Futuro Gala and 15th anniversary Quinceañera Brunch event for Mujeres de HACE. We thank you. I hope that you had as an impactful experience as I did and many did. And we ask you to continue to engage with us throughout the year. And also to all of the staff that did put so much time and effort to make sure it was a successful event. Two key announcements to join us before we jump in with our special guest is the Coaching Corner is available tomorrow. If you're looking to meet with a coach, you're in transition, you're looking for help with your resume, slots are available for tomorrow, April 27th. And secondly, if you are looking for that next career opportunity, HACE has its next career fair, virtual career fair on May 18th for experienced hires. So make sure we'll be sending some more information and that you check that out. Muy bien. Our special guest today is Elisa Soto. Elisa is a Vice President and Chief People Officer at CNA. Good morning, Elisa. How are you today?
Good morning, Patricia. I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity.
We're happy to have you as one of our partners at CNA. We like to have individuals come share their stories, meet our Cafecito con HACE audience, and get to know who you are. So tell us, our first question is, how do you like your cafecito or your morning beverage of choice prepared?
Well, I like, the first thing I do in the morning is have a bottle of water, but I like my cafecito black with no sugar. And those that know me also know that I have no problem replacing my cafecito with a Diet Coke as early as possible in the morning. So I get my caffeine either through black coffee or through Diet Coke.
Diet Coke and coffee. Water, it's like a process, right? The water first, then the cafe. Usually I'm a straight black coffee drinker throughout the year because I drink so much of it. I don't want to have all that additional sugar intake. But today I was feeling for some café con leche, so that's what I ended up doing this morning. Elisa, and so our audience members, we also asked them, so drop it in the comment section. We want to know, what are you drinking this morning? How do you like your café, your cafecito? The other great thing that I love about having these charlas, these conversations, is getting to know who our guests are, right? So getting to know your story, how you got to where you are, and your career today. I think folks in HR are some of our most treasured people that we have within our organization, but sometimes can not look so much so as well, depending on who you ask. I want to know, how did you get to where you are today? But most importantly, about your cultural background as well, to leading in such an influential and powerful position.
Yes, thank you, Patricia. So I was born in the beautiful island of Puerto Rico, La Isla del Encanto. When I was 5 years old, my parents decided to move to Indiana. And I was really grateful for that opportunity because not only did I have an opportunity to learn a different language at an early age, but I also had the opportunity to really engage and meet folks who had immigrated from different parts of the world, right? Going to school there versus going to school in Puerto Rico with, just a bunch of Puerto Rican kids. I had the opportunity to really, go to school in a diverse school that gave me many opportunities. So you asked about my professional background,
So I
and
have
I
to
wanted to.
ask, we're in Indiana because yours truly grew up in Northwest Indiana.
Oh
So
wow! I grew up in East Chicago, Indiana.
that's where I'm from. Elisa, I didn't even no
Really?
idea.
Wow.
Yes. So,
Well, we have something in common, right?
yeah,
Connections. So
yeah.
yeah. So I did. We kind of went back and forth between Puerto Rico and Indiana, and
Mm,
finished back going to high school in Puerto Rico, and I went to high school to the University of Puerto Rico on a full
mm.
scholarship. I was very lucky. I got a
Oh,
full scholarship. But you asked about my profession. So where I ended up and how I ended up where I am today really has a lot to do with my upbringing, specifically my parents, right?
mm-hmm.
My parents, right? Every parent wants a great life for their children, right? And my parents were no different. And that's why we went to Indiana, right? They wanted me to learn a different language because they knew that was going to open up opportunities for me in the future. But it wasn't what they did, but basically who they were as individuals, as humans, as parents,
Mm,
right? That really shaped me into the person that I am today, right? Not only personally, but also professionally. They always taught me to be respectful, have empathy, be humble, always remember where you come from, no matter how successful you are, be honest, work hard, right? And always be true to yourself, right? Never
yeah,
change for anybody else, be true to yourself. And I basically have used those skills and the behaviors and what my parents showed me. They modeled that behavior as I was growing up, and I've used that in my professional career. So when I finished my first year of college, I moved to Virginia. I moved back
mm,
in '91. I moved here with my family. Again, as a parent, I wanted a better life for my kids as well. So I
mm.
moved here, and I ended up in a nonprofit organization doing personnel management. For those of you who are in the human resources area, you know that that's what it was called back in the day. And it was there where I really fell in love with the profession. I had a knack for connecting with people, and I used the being empathetic, being honest, being transparent, all of those skills in my job. And
Mm.
fast forward, right? I've had many opportunities to work for large GovCon organizations in the DC metro area over the years. I've learned a ton, and and now I'm at CNA Corporation. A member of the senior leadership team as a chief people officer, and I'm loving it. It's a great organization, but who I am and where I ended up has a lot to do with my parents, and I'm forever grateful for that because just being who I am has gotten me
Yeah.
where I am today.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing. I know we have a lot of folks that can relate to your story in many aspects, right? As Latinos in general, but I know we've got a lot of Puerto Ricanos out there that are
Hmm.
also part of the HACE familia. And if any of you happen to know where East Chicago or are from East Chicago, please drop that in the chat because it's very rare, right, Elisa? I know
Yes.
In Chicago, like, you mean that's Illinois? It's like, no, Indiana. It's like East
Hmm.
Chicago, Indiana. And we have a lot of mujeres de ASTA alum in the Metro DC area as well that are tuning in. I'm sure would love to engage you there locally on the ground. And then, of course, one of our partner organizations, Latinas Rising in HR, which are just a lot of the cultural things that you mentioned, right, that are just such a great fit for this
Hmm.
type of profession, right, in terms of the role that you have to have. And how do you continue to move up in your career? I'm sure are questions that some of the folks have. And one of those key aspects in moving up in your career is building strategic networks. And part of that is the mentorship component, the
Yeah.
sponsorship component, the following up, the cultivating. Just last week, many of you that joined us at the National Leadership Summit and Gala, many new connections were made, right? And so we want to be able to have Elisa share with us, how do you continue to cultivate those connections? So, Elisa, what would you share with our audience and from your experience?
Yeah, sure, Patricia. So first I would say that, right, making connections and networking is sometimes difficult for people. It's not something that a lot of us normally, gravitate towards, right? Sometimes it's just difficult to make those connections, but it's really critical and crucial, especially in this day and age, right? My organization, we're very committed to DEI&B, and part of it is diversity of thoughts and experiences and ideas, right? And that's really what you get from making these connections and networking. So I would say, for those of you that were at the summit, this is your most recent experience, right, with making connections. I would say continue to connect as often as you can. Find opportunities where you can reach out to that person that maybe you sat by at one of the, the chats and one of the speakers. Send an email if you were able to exchange business cards. Send an email, thank them, right? Say, hey, I sat with you at this, during this session. We talked a little bit about this. This is my area of expertise. And, if there's anything that I can support or help you with in the future, please reach out. I would say connect with them through LinkedIn. If you're in the DC area or in the same region, right, as they are, invite them for cafecito, right? Or lunch, and just really kind of get to know each other. There's a lot of value in making these connections, right? Even if there was a speaker, right? A lot of speakers put kind of their LinkedIn info or their contact information. Send them an email, right? Those are all connections, right? Connections are made every day. They're internal to your organization. They're current colleagues, past colleagues, they're professors, right? I mean, people you run into on a day-to-day basis. The connection that you and I are making right now, Patricia, right? That's something that I will definitely hold on to. And every once in a while, reach out to you and your colleagues and make sure that we're just staying in touch. That's really important as part of networking. Yeah. Not only does it help you, get different perspectives, different experiences, different ideas, but it also, I've used my connections in the past, and that's one of the other questions, right, that you asked. How do I use my connections? I have used my connections to have them give me kind of, how would you handle this situation at work, right? And I've had my connections call me, right? It's like the job that I'm in right now, a previous colleague of mine from like 10 years ago reached out and said, hey, I have the perfect job for you. And so really hold on to those connections and really nurture them as much as you can. Invite them to maybe a professional organization that you have. I'm actually flying out to San Diego later on this evening to meet up with a group of HR professionals that are in the same nonprofit field that I'm working in. And we just share ideas, challenges, and best practices. And, I've been able to bring some of those back to my organization and really add value to the organization just based on my network, right? Yeah. So hold on to them, reach out as often as you can, because they will be very valuable to you at some point. And you will also add value to those that you connect with, right? These connections are about giving to each other and adding value. So that's what I would say. Just
I love that. Connect. And that was one of our pláticas. I know one of our speakers specifically on networking was his book. And I say work like that because work was in all caps. Is David Olivencia, whose book is you want to be able to cultivate that network while you have it, not when you need it. Right? Like not to say, make a connection and then reach out years later, like, hey, I'm in need of an opportunity. But cultivating, and you shared specific examples, like that individual that reached out 10 years later, it's not, you've been in touch with that person over those 10 years, right? I'm sure that you just didn't come out of nowhere and be like, Elisa, we have this perfect fit for you. But it's because you maintain those relationships throughout the 10 years. So then when they knew of an opportunity, they knew you, they had that relationship, they called you up for that opportunity. And so I think you just shared some amazing tips to consider about offering value. It's a give and take, right? Exactly. So we have some few minutes for some questions. Ivan or Yvonne, can you share advice for a young professional on networking and how to overcome barriers? So pick a barrier, because there could be many, right? Whether it's you're more on the introvert side, or
Right.
Elisa, you pick and how you respond because it could be anything.
Well, yeah, let's stick with the, maybe you're just not very out there, right? You're not,
Hmm.
you're just introvert,
Yeah.
as you mentioned, and making connections is just challenging, right? It's not something that comes easy, and all I can say, Ivan, is just push yourself outside of your comfort zone. Maybe pick a topic that you are comfortable with to start a conversation with someone, because I know that sometimes it's hard to make the connection, right? And then it's like, what do I talk about, right? What if the topic is not something that I'm well versed in, right? So, sometimes we have that imposter syndrome that really kind of holds us back. Just go for it, right? Just push yourself outside of the comfort zone. Come up with a topic you feel comfortable with, approach that person, and just have a conversation. You will be amazed at where the conversation goes. So,
Yeah.
if I'm going to give you any recommendation, is to really push yourself outside of your comfort zone. It's going to really come in. You're going to be surprised at what you achieve and how many connections you make by just doing that alone.
Yeah, I love that. It's stepping outside your comfort zone. I think the other one we hear sometimes folks perhaps are intimidated by a title or a role that someone may have and doesn't want to
Right.
approach. I keep in mind at
Right.
the end of the day we're all human beings and we can
Mhm.
have conversations that connect us, right? So it's asking good questions and I know for newer events or events that I come in, it's like asking the question, what brings you here, right? Because we're all there for a reason, or someone invited us, or there's a speaker that we have in common. So it helps bring that common ground. The other, Elisa, question that I have for you, and if we don't,
Mhm.
we'll wait to see if there's any other questions, is on the LinkedIn piece because we've become a lot more of a virtual network more than ever, right? What tips do you have for folks on LinkedIn and how to really cultivate the networks and their relationships through LinkedIn?
So I would say, right, definitely connect through LinkedIn. As far as building your network, right, you got to really put yourself out there, right? You got to
Hmm.
build your brand, your personal brand, your professional brand. Stay active, right? Maybe put a post on a regular basis out there. Maybe a blog about something that you're very passionate about.
Hmm.
Connect with people that are connections to your network and say, hey, I've noticed that we're connected through so and so, and maybe we can support each other or help each other in the future. So I would say use that. It's a powerful platform to network, with folks within your industry, outside of your industry, and just put yourself out there. Right?
Yeah.
You got to be visible, and you got to expose yourself and expose your brand. And the more connections you have, the bigger your network is. Right? So that's my advice to on how to use LinkedIn and the platform.
Yeah, and you can keep the questions coming because even if we wrap up here shortly, we can always go back. We have Jay. What is your go-to question when starting a networking conversation?
Yeah, so I asked them about their experience, their background, right? Similar to the question we started off with today, right? Tell me a little bit about yourself. If
Hmm.
we're going to a conference, right? What brings you here? What are you trying to get out of attending today's conference? See if we have any kind of similarities of why we're there. Maybe that conversation sparks into the reason why we're there is because we're trying to get some information to help us with a challenge we want to go back, to work and solve. So it's really just about getting to know the person, right? And my philosophy as an HR professional is building relationships of trust, because
Yeah.
without trust, you're really not going to have those connections. Some of my closest friends have resulted from professional connections that I've made in the past, whether it's previous colleagues, um, you know current colleagues, but I would say always start with getting to know the person and see what similarities you have and let the conversation flow from there.
Yeah, love it. I know this conversation can go on and on and on. We want to encourage you, those joining us in the chat, to add your own tips and recommendation, what's worked for you. And if you have any other questions, because we will go back, Elisa is on LinkedIn, so make sure to connect with her. And as we wrap up, Elisa, what are you most hopeful for or a positive story that gives you hope for this year?
So a positive story, right? I always want to be able to have or make an impact
Mm,
wherever I am, right? In this particular case at CNA, part of my legacy that I will leave, right? Even if I'm there forever, right? Is this new program that we've created, which is a flexible work model.
mm,
As many organizations went through when we went through the pandemic, right? We're trying to all figure out what does the new norm going to what is it the new norm going to look like. Um, and there was no benchmarking for it, right? Because this
mm.
was all brand new to all of us. And through my network, I was able to get some ideas from them, right? And I shared my ideas with them. But it's really just watching how this new program is going to help the employees, current and future of CNA, you know, provide the balance they need to take care of home and family, as well as come in and do their best work every day. It's not perfect. We continue to modify it and tweak it as we learn. But I'm really, really happy about this new program, and I'm very excited about the outcome of the positive outcomes that are going to come out of the program. So that's what I'm really excited for.
I would love to learn more, and I'm sure many others here joining us, even from our other partnerships, and perhaps that's something that we set up some more time to take a deeper dive from lessons learned,
Absolutely.
because I think it's something that everyone's looking for their employees and for their workforce, right? So that is positive. I'm looking forward to learning more at some other point. Thank you for sharing your time, your insights with us this morning, Elisa. For all of
Gracias.
you joining us, hasta la próxima. Until next time, everyone. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.